Reid Duke. Jonathan Job, he's not here on accident.
Oh no.
He's 9-0 with this standard deck. You know, he had a decent showing Legacy, going 4-4 with a Blue-White Miracles deck with the Rest in Peace Helm of Obedience combo in it. But standard is what he wanted to play this weekend. It's the format he said he knew the best, and it was the deck he was the happiest with, and it shows.
They give each other the handshake to get things started. In the background, Glenn Jones on the right behind Jonathan Job, and you can see way back there Toby Elliott, our head judge. Turn 1, Jonathan Job with Temple Garden. Reid Duke with Overgrown Tomb. Blistering fast pace here as we see a Rootbound Crag and a pass.
Yeah, you know, we're going to really have to buckle up here as we do see a Farseek here from Reid after he places Alchemist Refuge. These are going to be very long games from both players. There's a lot of card advantage. There's going to be a lot of cards drawn. You know, Reid does have Farseek in his deck, so he'll be searching his deck for other type of things. And Reid's deck, of course, wins through Nephalia Drownyard, so that doesn't, you know, that's not a fast card. He can, of course, attack with Thragtusk, but most of the time he's going to be milling his opponent out. So buckle down, ladies and gentlemen. Get a drink and prepare for... prepare for quite a long match.
The only black in Reid Duke's deck is the activation of the Nephalia Drownyards. There is nothing in the sideboard or main deck that he casts with black. It's just to activate.
As now we are going to see a Centaur Healer here from John. John's going to move up to 23. A card that, you know, is there and present for the aggressive matchups, black-red zombies, the red-black aggro decks. It's, you know, perfectly reasonable in the mid-range mirrors, but this isn't really where it's at home, as we do see Amass the Components from Reid Duke. Amass the Components, a card that we don't see a ton of in Standard.
Yeah, this is a great card. I mean, it costs 4 mana, but it accomplishes a similar task to Brainstorm in Legacy. Brainstorm, obviously, a ridiculously powered card. Amass the Components is as much as Wizards of the Coast is willing to give us in Standard. Draw 3 into your hand, and then choose 1 card in your hand and put it on the bottom. This can be a really good way to get rid of those dead cards in a match where, who knows, maybe you've got an extra land you don't need, or a removal spell that's not right for the matchup, or a counter spell where it's going to be too late to the party.
As we do see John come across with the Centaur Healer and play a second one post-combat, he is moving up to 26. We are going to see life totals more, I think, going up than down in this matchup because of Thragtusk and Centaur Healer and, you know, the combination with Restoration Angel.
This is going to be a game that is going to be all about, essentially, how many Thragtusks get into play on each side. The number of beasts we're going to see, whether it's coming back from the dead because of Angel of Serenity, or whether it's being brought out with the Garruk Primal Hunter, there is going to be a lot of Thragtusk action here in this match, presuming that one player or another gets to 5 mana.
We do see Reid kind of planning out a turn here. Not sure if he's a little bit land light, but we are going to see an Augur of Bolas here. Plenty of spells for him to hit: Supreme, Verdict, you know, Azorius Charm, lots of good stuff. You just see him looking things over, and you do see an Azorius Charm.
Right. And he still has an island in hand, so he must not have a Thragtusk if he's dropping the Augur of Bolas. Or he's wanting to slow play for the ability to dissipate an opponent's 5-drop.
So you do see Jonathan draw a card for the turn, and it is Restoration Angel. You can see the way that Jonathan draws his card in a certain manner there. It is because he does have 2 copies of Bonfire of the Damned in his main deck, a card that is not going to do a ton in this particular matchup, but, you know, you don't want to miss the miracle trigger for your makeshift Fireball there, as we do see 2 Centaur Healers coming across, Reid representing Restoration Angel.
Now, Jonathan Job's Centaur Healers, that 3 life gain 3/3 for 3, it's in this deck as a primarily anti-aggressive card. But you know what? Way back in the day, Trained Armadon, later on, Gnarled Mass, these were cards people would play because that's actually a hefty body. We've been trained that Centaur Healer is only good against the aggressive decks because of that life gain, but you can't ignore a 3/3 coming in at you once it's on the table.
It does provide, you know, a certain type of clock. And again, Reid does have a lot of life gain in his deck, but it's not something that he can ignore. He can use his life as a resource here, of course, to the best of his ability, but at some point he is going to have to deal with those Centaur Healers, and you can best believe he does know that.
You can see that there is a Thragtusk in John's hand here. He's choosing not to cast it. Why? He does not want to walk into a counterspell. He knows that this is going to be a grind, and Thragtusk is a great card in a grind.
As we do know that Reid's deck list does have 4 copies of Dissipate in the main deck. And we are going to see Reid, after thinking twice, he has drawn his card for the turn. You see a Sun Petal Grove come into play here.
Reid at 6 mana. The longer that the game draws out, the more potent Sphinx's Revelation is going to become. Jonathan Job cannot let this game drag, otherwise he'll be punished for it.
As you are going to see a Restoration Angel here on the end step for John. It is going to come into play to not bring out one of those dissipates that Reid may or may not have in his hand. You did see last turn too, Adrian, that Jonathan, attacked with both those Centaur healers, and Reid elected not to block with Augur of Bolas, which leads me to believe that there's probably a Restoration Angel here looming.
In comes Centaur, Angel. What's this? From the clouds? Anything?
Reid taking his time here.
I believe I did see a Restoration Angel. I'm not sure about that for sure, but I thought I saw the glint of white. Both players fought through 203 other people to get here. And there it is, from the clouds, an angel.
You are going to see a Restoration Angel here before blocks, making his best attempt to blink the Augur of Bolas, which does resolve. We'll see what Augur's able to reveal here, as we already do know the first Augur revealed in Azorius Charm. Think twice for the second Augur for Reid Duke, and we will see some blocking and other fun stuff here from Reid.
One of 4 Think Twice. Yeah, as Cedric said, the block coming in, Augur just ready to die for the cause. Keep the life total up.
Now we'll see if Reid is going to elect to either A, use one of those Azorius Charms, or B, just choose to cast a Think Twice here. As we do have a result already, Ben Weinberg, in what is going to be a much more fast-paced match, I think, winning 1-0 over against Matt Nass. Ben with his Naya Humans deck up 1-0 against Matt Nass and his blue-white, basically Geist of St. Traff deck.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to call it. I think that that's going to be a pretty lopsided matchup, actually.
In the favor of?
In favor of Ben.
Okay.
I mean, he's facing against a Geist deck, and he's going to be able to gum up the board and be the aggressor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that, Matt has built his deck in such a way to have, he does have 4 unsummons, those Feeling of Dreads. So he has probably beaten some aggro decks on his way through here. I'm not sure if he's ever taken down one of the human varieties, since you expect at this tournament to run into black-red or red-black. Those assortment of decks, as green-white has been on the decline. As we do see here, Reid taking his turn, playing in the Thalia Drown Yard, as Jonathan, on his second main phase of his last turn, added a Thragtusk to the battlefield. He does have another Thragtusk to go along with the Selesnya Charm, and now a Borderland Ranger. So one of the cards that is important in this matchup, Adrian, in Kessig Wolf Run, a card that John has quite a few, just 2 copies of, and you don't find any Gevany Townships here, but one of the more important cards in this matchup he has not found yet.
Thragtusk, Centaur Healer, Restoration Angel. On the other side, Restoration Angel. If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Cedric Phillips. This is game 1 of the semifinals. Reid Duke with Bant Control versus Jonathan Job with Naya Midrange. Remember to join us on Twitter. Follow us at SCG Live. You can also follow Cedric or I at Adrian L. Sullivan, at Cedric A. Phillips. The conversation this whole weekend, hashtag SCGINVI, and don't forget the print coverage. There's a lot of good stuff over there at the StarCityGames.com website.
As we do see a Restoration Angel trade here with the Thragtusk, the front end of it, of course. Jonathan still holding steady with that Selesnya Charm, because again, he does know that Reid has Azorius Charm in his hand, so he doesn't really want to get blown out that way. Reid's life total currently at 2. Jonathan considering, should I add this Thragtusk to the board? There's likely to be a Sphinx's Revelation coming. If that were to get countered, then I get Supreme Verdict, then I don't have anything. So Jonathan really deciding exactly what he wants to do here, and it looks like it is going to be that Borderland Ranger that he drew for the turn. Reid going to let that resolve predictably. I can't imagine him dissipating that at this juncture.
I'm a huge fan of Borderland Ranger in all of these decks. I'm even a fan of it in kind of the now defunct red-green aggro lists. It's not as big of a body as a lot of things, but that land draw out of your deck cannot be discounted as being, particularly valuable. We learned a million trillion years ago that attacking for 2 was often sufficient. And in this deck, which has Kessig Wolfrun, fueling the mana for Kessig Wolfrun is huge in the late game, and even the 2/2 body, if it's all by itself, let's say everything's been cleared out, you drop a Borderland Ranger, but you've got that Kessig Wolfrun, on the next turn, you can fireball your opponent's face with your Borderland Ranger. I think it does a lot of work for Jonathan Job's deck, which really, it's putting Angel of Serenity into play. It has a lot of stuff at the top end. Garruk Primal Hunter, that requires a lot of white, a lot of green. Oh boy, here it comes. The first of many.
We see a Sphinx's Revelation here from Reid. It is going to draw him 4 cards and get him 4 life. Again, we don't have a great view of Reid Duke's hand, just like you guys at home, so the surprises that he'll play will be surprising us as well. But that one didn't really come as much of a surprise.
Now, if we look at these life totals, now 10 to 34. Oh, is it 6? Pardon me, now 6 to 34. 2 plus 4 equals 6, not 6 plus 4.
So you see Reid going over his options here in his hand. It's likely to believe that there's a Supreme Verdict hanging out over there. There are a lot of copies in Reid's main deck, actually the full amount. But the thing he has to keep in mind as he's playing out his turn here, and we're actually going to see a Terminus be hardcast, is that he needs to be able to clear these creatures, but Jonathan has end-of-turn creatures that he can play in Restoration Angel and Selesnya Charm. So if he's not careful, he can actually just end up dying after casting a Wrath.
Oh my goodness. Wasn't there a Thragtusk in play? Did he forget to do the trigger?
No, the Thragtusk, there was a Beast Token, a Centaur Healer, and a Restoration Angel. Thragtusk had already been taken care of.
I thought I saw a Thragtusk in play. Never mind then. But yeah, as you said, the Restoration Angel EOT, end of turn, could supply a small problem for Reid Duke. Reid Duke probably contemplating 2 life or not. He goes for the 2 life loss so he can have Azorius Charm. Have that access to that card there. Let's see what happens. 4 to 34 right now. I think earlier I saw a Garruk Primal Hunter in Jonathan Job's hand. I'm not 100% sure of that, but if it's there, that would be an excellent follow-up to this turn.
As we see the draw step here for Jonathan being an Avacyn Pilgrim to go along with the Thragtusk and Selesnya Charm.
Yep.
You saw that John elected not to make it 2/2 with Selesnya Charm. He's been holding that for a long time now, and you can see that he's just trying to pick his best spot to really get Reid with it, and we are going to see that Thragtusk here from Jonathan pushing him to 39.
As Cedric said, the other 2 cards, Selesnya Charm and Avacyn's Pilgrim, so no Garruk in there. Maybe that was just my wishful thinking. Thragtusk pushes Jonathan Job up to 39 life. Reid Duke back against the wall. Handful of cards. He can easily come back from this with the right combination of cards. Can he assemble it in time? Reid Duke spends 5 of his own. That's the beginning of what he needs to do. A Thragtusk brings him back to 9. This is then the 3rd Thragtusk of the match. 2 for Jonathan Job, 1 for Reid Duke.
As we have a bit of a standoff here. It's going to be a showdown as we see Selesnya Charm in Jonathan Job's hand. Adrian, he's been holding this for a very, very long time, trying to pick his best spot for this card, and it looks like as he moves, okay, he's finally going to make his move here, exiling that half of it, and I think the reason behind that, even though Reid doesn't have access to Restoration Angel on it right now, getting it out of the way may be important to Jonathan.
Jonathan draws another Avacyn's Pilgrim.
Boy, a card that you talked about at the top, Kessig Wolfrun, it would be a great draw for him right now as we see Thragtusk, the front end. Reid passes over the beast.
Nice guy.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
he's about sharing.
Nice guy, Reid Duke, indeed. You can have this for now. As we are going to see Think Twice be flashed back at end of turn. Reid has done a nice job here, Adrian, of stabilizing the game at a relevant life total of 9. He's got a lot of cards in his hand. And Jonathan his last couple of draw steps have just not quite been good enough. Back-to-back Avacyn's Pilgrims, not what he is looking for right now.
That's true. A pass from Reid Duke. Lots of mana open. 7 potential cards waiting in the wings should he have another Sphinx's Revelation. This is that moment in the game where Jonathan needs to close it out, or else he can be punished for failure to do so.
Yeah, this is a terrifying moment here for him. You know, there are definitely good draws left in his deck. Thragtusk, Restoration Angel, Bonfire of the Damned, Miracle Style, Kessig Wolfrun, Farseek, which he drew for the turn. I wouldn't say that's one of them.
It's not exciting. It's not exciting. I mean, you could think of it in a, accentuate the positive kind of way. That's one less land in his deck to draw.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, it is clearing things out of his deck. He is also holding that Avacyn's Pilgrim at this point. To me, and I'm interested in what you would do. Would you continue to hold that to potentially play around Supreme Verdict, the Wrath of God? Or just, kind of just hope things break his way?
I mean, I hope right now, I would keep it, I would play it in play since I don't have a Kessig Wolfrun. If I had the Wolfrun, I would hold it back.
Okay.
I mean, you're basically having to hope Reid doesn't have the card he has. Look at that, draw 7. There's not even any ante involved. What's going on here?
But also gain 7. And this is why when people ask what are the best cards in the format, what are the most powerful cards in the format, when Sphinx's Revelation is brought to the conversation, that's exactly why it's brought up, is because you just see the kind of effect it has on these mid-range games, which is just unbelievable.
I mean, if you were somebody that played with Pristine Talisman and Blue Sun Zenith, you knew the power of life gain plus card draw. Here, you don't have to have a 2-card combo. You get it all in one.
Yeah, hardly seems fair. As we see another Thragtusk here, Reid is starting to say, Jonathan, I'm going to catch up to that 35. I can get there. I promise I can.
Now, don't forget about way up at the top there, that Alchemist Refuge just hanging out. Reid Duke has gotten to the point in his mana development where he can actually start doing some pretty absurd stuff at instant speed. So when it boils down to it, Jonathan right now, he's maybe hit that point where the only way he can win this game is if a Kessig Wolfrun followed by tons of gas hit right now.
Yeah. This draw step is uber important as he does draw up planes.
Not the right kind of land.
And you bring up Alchemist Refuge. It's a card that's been added to this deck over the past couple of weeks. People have seen a lot of success with this card. He's using it right now to Farseek at the end of the turn.
I mean, it's kind of like casting Harrow in a way.
Yeah.
+1 mana, end of the turn.
But the point I was going to make here, between that colorless land and 2 Nephalia Drawn Yards, one of the things that's interesting about this Bant control deck is that its colorless lands really do a lot of positive things for this deck. Nephalia Drawn Yard acting as a win condition, and Alchemist Refuge really making the opponent second guess a couple things when, all the mana is up, and, what can you do it with flash speed? Is there going to be a Supreme Verdict coming on my end step? Impersonating a route?
Route, always an amazing card at, was it 7 mana to get the instant speed? You know what? That is not so different than using an Alchemist Refuge, and that's a scary card. Okay, a pass after land for Jonathan Job. Quick update from the Matt Nass Ben Weinberg match. Ben Weinberg now up 2-0.
Matt Nass is going to have to make things get pretty nasty here pretty quick, as he cannot afford to lose another one. And Adrian, what you predicted to be a pretty difficult matchup for him, and so far that is holding true.
If you are just joining us right now, Ben Weinberg in the other match off camera up 2-0 versus Matt Nass. This match, we're still in game 1.
I think the games are going to be long here, but if the games are going long, as we do see Jonathan finally draw a Kessig Wolfrun, I think that those games do favor Reid. But again, Jonathan can put up a fight here with a mana sink like a Kessig Wolfrun. This was a super important draw for him to get himself back into this game.
Now, what he's going to need to do is get more than this Wolfrun. He's going to need to be able to keep up with the cards in some small way. What that will entail is getting Thragtusk in play, or getting, even more difficult, a Garruk Primal Hunter in play, getting a card like Huntmaster of the Fells in play, basically just getting numerous bodies, any of which could potentially be helped out by a Wolfrun.
And right now, Adrian, you do just see a solo attack here from an Avacyn's Pilgrim. Jonathan all aboard the Kessig Wolfrun train here. And the thing that makes this difficult for Jonathan is, yes, this is, one of the best draws that he does have available in his deck, but an Azorius Charm makes this look very, very poor for him. And we do see Reid Duke tapping his mana, moving 4 forward, taking a look at Jonathan's graveyard. We could be seeing a Restoration Angel, but it is just an Azorius Charm.
Yeah, now why did Reid do that Drown Yard first? He's planning on potentially killing with that Drown Yard. He wants Jonathan to draw that Avacyn's Pilgrim.
Absolutely.
So mill first, not wanting to accidentally, get Jonathan a good card.
Yeah, I mean, and he doesn't want to mill away that Avacyn's Pilgrim that he's going to put on top, so Jonathan's draw step, as we know, is that Avacyn's Pilgrim to go along with that mountain in his hand.
Now, Jonathan wisely saved 1 mana back just so he'd be able to cast the Pilgrim that was waiting in his hand. We see the exact same play with that fresh Pilgrim, the old Pilgrim now in his hand, a little do-si-do between the Pilgrims.
And I think we're going to see the same thing here from Reid in Natalia Drown Yard, your guy, and Azorius Charm the Pilgrim.
Boom.
Back to the top.
Poor Jonathan. And, okay, if you blinked, you might think that you had some deja vu, but, yeah. Jonathan hanging on to a mountain in hand, pretending like it's something.
As we do see Reid just play Hinterland Harbor and pass back Avacyn's Pilgrim again for a 3rd draw step in a row here, and likely going to see Jonathan try the exact same thing again, but this is the power of Azorius Charm right now. A card that seems a little bit underwhelming. It always does cycle. Some of the modes may not seem that powerful, but right now, it's never been better.
Just choking out a draw phase. Sometimes, you know what, you don't actually want to kill a creature. Sometimes what we want to do is give it back to them, but kill their draw step for it. Uh-oh. Supreme Verdict as an instant, and Jonathan Job repaying the favor, giving the same token back. Post-combat, Avacyn's Pilgrim, that mountain he had hiding in his hand, he decided to put into play just in case Reid had nothing left. Mill from Reid Duke. Drown Yard, 3 cards go away. Jonathan Job, 1 creature in play, 1 Kessig Wolfrun, and this draw step, does it give him anything useful? You see the Alchemist Refuge, the Simic flavored card off to the left there.
As we see Jonathan here activating Kessig Wolfrun again, all aboard the Kessig Wolfrun train, and it looks like it finally does connect this time. But Jonathan does have to lose Avacyn's Pilgrim to do that, and we do see Natalia Drown Yard being activated. Reid at 8 life, but it's a pretty comfortable 8 life, I think you would agree.
Oh, absolutely. He's got a Thrag Tusk in hand and he's not casting it. That's how comfortable it is.
Yeah.
Cavern of Souls, and is that an Angel of Serenity?
I believe that is an Angel of Serenity.
Oh my god, is it going to name Angel? I bet you it is.
As we are going to see Natalia Drown Yard strike one more time here. Reid can opt to use that Alchemist Refuge to push that Thrag Tusk through on Jonathan's end step, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Get himself 5 more life, move up to 13, and a body. Be interesting to see if it does attack here with Jonathan at 39, looking like he's going to be taking the Mill Your Library route, but it is a Restoration Angel.
Not the Big Daddy Angel of Serenity, but Restoration Angel. That was kind of tipped away when Jonathan said go instead of just casting his non-flash Angel in his deck. Angel of Serenity, 7 mana for the most awesome late-game card Jonathan could have drawn. Instead, 4 mana for a 3/4 flash flyer, and it can hit Reid Duke upside the head, but will it be enough?
As we do see Jonathan taking a look at Reid's graveyard really quickly, trying to get an idea of what could possibly be in his hand, potential draws for Reid. Jonathan now looking over his, seeing potential draws for me. And one of them, as he is going to untap here shortly, is Bonfire of the Damned, and I think that that would be a big one right now.
Miracle check? Nope.
Not quite. But an attack for 3 is a good place to be.
How many Azorius Charms do you have? But remember, the Alchemist Refuge means that the Supreme Verdicts get to do the same kind of job. Alchemist Refuge, turn all of my spells that turn into flash. Not just one of them, all of them. Mentioned Simic earlier, the colors on the Alchemist Refuge. I gotta tell you, I'm looking forward to Gate Crash.
Yeah, you and me both, trust me.
Here it comes, +6, +10, he's all in.
So let's see.
13 life, 13 damage.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Reid doing a count of Jonathan's library. I would be hard-pressed to believe that Reid doesn't have anything here for this.
It would be a surprise.
Yeah, it would be quite the surprise as he is counting the library, counting his own library right now. Wondering what Reid is setting up here or going through the motions for. We will find out in just a moment as he is tapping some mana here. This might be a little bit more troublesome than we thought,
Okay.
Adrian.
What if he's doing this? Trying to save up the mana here for an Alchemist Refuge plus Supreme Verdict, and then a Sphinx will be the rest of the mana he taps. Sphinx's Revelation for the rest of it.
As you see Reid furiously moving the cards around, you see a bit of a setup there on the right hand of his mana base. You see a bunch of mana being tapped here by Reid, and we do see a Supreme Verdict here for 5. It looks like he may not have this. He might not have the the Supreme Verdict right now, as Revelation draws him 5 cards.
Well, he's still alive if he didn't draw it, but he would prefer to have drawn it. Let's see what happens.
All right.
Azorius Charm. That's a much easier, simple solution for now.
And we are going to see Reid mill that Restoration Angel along with another one and a Farseek. So Reid's still alive, still able to keep his head above water.
Now remember, previously he was doing it the other way around. That's because he wanted Jonathan to draw those Avacyn's Pilgrims. Now he's like, no, you don't get that card.
Yeah, I don't want you to draw that one. That one flies. That one's a little bit more problematic for me. I'd prefer if you didn't have that.
18 to 39. The Singleton, 1 rest in peace.
Now, rest in peace. An interesting Singleton. Reid has actually decided to go with a 1 main deck rest in peace instead of the 1 main deck Elixir of Immortality that he has had for previous events. Looking over Jonathan's deck list just to see the ways that it kind of impacts him, especially in this long, drawn-out game 1. There aren't a ton of things that it really does outside of course, Angel of Serenity. But this card, Rest in Peace, can't do anything about it.
Right? And he leaves 4 mana open with the Cavern of Souls. I wonder what's in Jonathan Jones' hand.
And we are going to see a Dissipate here from Reid on the Bonfire of the Damned. Not willing to take that amount of damage from that card at this point in time.
Right? And Reid, counting his own library. You can Sphinx all you want to, but at a certain point, you run out of deck.
Yeah.
Reid has taken the Elixir of Immortality out of this deck. Temple Garden go, and to turn an uncounterable Angel via the Cavern of Souls.
Now, we saw the last time that we were here, Adrian, as we see a Kessig Wolfram. The last time we were here, Reid needed to cast a Sphinx's Revelation that looked like to find some help in the situation. And we're going to see
instant speed.
Instant speed Detention Sphere take care of that. So Reid looks to be doing just fine. Alchemist Refuge playing a huge role in this game.
Oh, man.
Huge role.
I've dreamed so often of casting certain spells as instants. Alchemist Refuge lets you do it. And Reid doing a quick count. Reid Duke here, firmly in control of this game. And
Jonathan gives in.
Yeah, he gives. Uncle.
Jonathan Job down a game. Reid Duke up a game in his Bant control list. In what is a matchup that is possibly favored for Reid, but Jonathan put up one heck of a fight that game 1.
Yeah. Okay. So now, aside from Reid Duke taking down that first game, we've got that win in. We've also got 2 wins in for Ben Weinberg over Matt Nass. One of you at home can also be a winner during this StarCityGames.com Open Series Invitational Weekend. We give away some premium prizes to people out there watching from home. The way that the Premium Trivia Challenge works, we're going to ask you a trivia question. One person who correctly answers this trivia question will be selected at random from among all of the other correct answers to receive 6 free months of Star City Games Premium.
Absolutely.
If you've been watching all weekend, you saw the tokens fly by, a bunch of the StarCityGames.com writers.
Those are
My
awesome.
favorite token is Brad Nelson's. I think it's the claws on that thing that are just awesome. But in order to get that 6 free months, you can read Brad Nelson's work so that you can watch all of the awesome premium videos, so you can get all that great content. One trivia question for you. There is a pardon me, a large elephant in Jonathan Job's deck. 75 cards, he's got a large elephant.
It's big.
That's right.
It's big. I think it's uncounterable too, isn't it?
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah.
Aside from being uncounterable, it also can't be, or if you discard it, it goes right into play.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
right?
This could be anything.
So here is my question for you. Easy one, softball. How many copies of this large elephant is Jonathan Job playing in his sideboard?
Okay. All right.
Why is this a softball question? Well, because you can look to our print coverage and you can find out if you go to StarCityGames.com, check out all of the amazing print coverage over there, and then that'll give you kind of a taste of some of the things you can get from StarCityGames.com on that print side, too.
Absolutely.
Now,
So-
hashtag SCG Premium, you're going to need to have that on your answer. If you don't, well, then you're not talking to anyone over here, so we're not
Don't
going to
know.
even know.
Don't know who you're talking to. I think you're
Yeah.
talking to themselves.
So how many copies of that elephant, and what is the elephant? Now back to our heroes here, Reid Duke and Jonathan Job. They're to their sideboards. Uh-oh. Now we're going to see. Oh my gosh, this gives away the ghost. I hope you guys can answer this question
Yeah,
right.
boy, this could be any card. It really could be any card. Softball doesn't even seem. It seems like more like it's a wiffle ball.
It is
as far as
wiffle
I'm
ball.
concerned.
You know what? I want the kids out there to win. I heard you trying to make it hard.
No way! My question was easy. My questions are easy.
So wiffle ball, hard ball. We're going to go with the wiffle.
But taking a look at Jonathan's sideboard here, he is down a game. He'll be playing first game too. Cards that he can bring in this matchup. There's additional Bonfire of the Damned in his sideboard. Not, outside of miracling it, it's not really great in this particular matchup, so I don't think it's really going to be very good here. There are 2 Oblivion Rings here as well, which again, not a particularly good card. Reid's deck doesn't really have a ton of permanents, and you don't really want to Oblivion Ring of Flag Tusk very much. 3 copies of Rest in Peace. Reid has a Rest in Peace in his main deck, so that's not really going to do very much. But one card in particular that I really do like here is the 1 Sigarda Host of Herons.
Oh my god, this Sigarda is awesome. Now the thing about Sigarda, it has a creature type angel. All of the creatures that Jonathan, I think, brings in that has in his deck that create kind of tricksy effects are all angels.
Yeah.
So a Cavern of Soul on angels means that Angel of Serenity can come in the late game to supply him with more fuel. It means that end of turn surprise restoration angels can do some work, and that 1 Sigarda, since he's probably going to name Cavern Angel as one of his first ones, Cavern Beast being the other one for Thragtusk, that Sigarda is likely to be an uncounterable problem, and it's going to demand a Terminus or Supreme Verdict from Reid Duke.
Now, another card in the sideboard that I really do like here as well, and we saw this earlier on the first day of coverage here on Friday when Jonathan Job was actually playing against Sam Pardee, the Grand Prix Toronto runner-up, was Triumph of Ferocity. By just having a creature in play and being able to draw multiple cards a turn, you're actually able to keep up with how many cards a turn Bant Control actually has access to, and so you can kind of fight them on that axis as well, because Reid doesn't have really a great way to deal with Triumph of Ferocity, and when you just have something as simple as an Avacyn's Pilgrim in play, being able to trigger the Triumph of Ferocity, you're drawing 2 cards a turn, you're able to keep up with Reid, be able to find that Kessig Wolf Run to be able to chase down those Sphinx's Revelations.
Yeah, one of the things that might end up happening. Now, you can see looking at how Jonathan's list played out before that there were some bonfires that happened. Reid saw pretty much all of Jonathan's deck, but also importantly, he has Jonathan's deck list in front of him. He's going to know that his counterspells on creatures are not going to be very productive in general. But if a Triumph gets into play, Jonathan Job has essentially a personal howling mine. Patrick Sullivan, our co-commentator for the weekend, called this the working man's howling mine.
That's right. You do have to work for it a little bit, but I think the juice is worth the squeeze once it does get going.
Now, what I bring this up for is that since Bonfire kind of matters, and since this Triumph of Ferocity kind of matters, and those dissipates seem fairly weak, it might be worth thinking about a negate as a possibility to get stop a Triumph from happening. I'm not saying that's a correct play, but it's a thought.
Yeah, it's definitely something to consider here for Reid Duke's side. Also, another card that's worth negating, of course, is Garruk Primal Hunter.
That's right.
So I could see, maybe one, maybe both copies coming in here. It certainly would not be much of a surprise.
The thing about it, it's not intuitive, but the weapons that Jonathan brings to the table are such that the combination of Cavern and his creatures can make countering anything that's not a creature, well, the only thing you can reliably counter, and those cards are actually really critical. So, one other thing to note, Detention Sphere in Reid Duke's sideboard is a potential answer to Triumph. So I think that those detention sphere will go up to 2, 1 from the main, 1 from the board.
Yeah, and just looking very quickly, because both players are going to be starting here shortly, there is an additional copy of Azorius Charm, which will likely join us to go along with another Restoration Angel, 2 copies of Rock's Faithmender. That being a creature with 5 toughness, does a fantastic job of fighting against Huntmaster of the Fells in some of Jonathan's earlier plays. And do not sleep on Silklash Spider in this matchup.
Ooh,
a 2/7 against those angels that we spoke of, especially Sigarda, Host of Herons. That 2/7 not only blocks those guys, but shoots them down out of the air.
You know, I've played Silklash Spider a ton of times in the history of its being in print, and every time I've wanted it to be really good, and every time it wasn't that great. You know what? I think it's Silklash Spider's time. Yeah, it's on the bench most of the time, but, you know, every once in a while, coach calls him up and is like, get out there.
Yeah.
And it's the time, I think, I mean, look at here, Reid Duke has it, and I think it's a smart call.
Yeah, you know, the one other card in the sideboard that we didn't even mention, but it's, you know, one that doesn't really, I think, need a ton of mention, of course, is just Terminus in the sideboard. Those are going to be joining us against this creature deck as well.
Yeah.
And putting creatures on the bottom of the deck, you know, putting those creatures on the bottom to slow down Angel Serenity, going to be a positive there.
Yeah. Now, the thing that's really interesting about Reid Duke's sideboard, there really are so many options. We did not mention, I don't believe anyway, Jace Memory Adept as a potential card here. Because the ground can come up so much, just having a little Howling Mine of his own could be useful. But that's not how I would necessarily go. But I have seen this matchup where that one player has the Bant player has a Jace. And it has been terrible, and it has been amazing. So.
Yeah. It does vary, given on, you know, the board state and everything else. As we do see both players keep their 7 cards, Jonathan is going to start out here with an Avacyn's Pilgrim. I think we're going to see a turn to Loxodon Smiter.
Boom!
So a large elephant with a hammer is here.
Oh!
And now Damian Sandow is in attendance with a Terminus.
Wow.
His finishing move. Reid Duke, a fantastic draw step there to go along with the Glacial Fortress.
Wow.
That really turned things around in a hurry,
Hallelujah.
didn't it? Yeah, jeez. That turned things around in a real hurry.
Okay, we got another hammer-wielding elephant coming down here for Jonathan Job.
You know, the thing about you know, Jonathan's draw this game too is that's the kind of draw that he needs to kind of steal the game out from underneath him and hope that, you know, Reid does a miracle Terminus, because then he can get the beatdowns in and kind of pace the game through the wraths. Miracle Terminus turns everything around just unbelievably fast.
For a second there, if you saw Jonathan's face, it was not the face of a happy man.
Yeah, and
Look
now
at
he's
that.
passing.
Oh.
And now he's passing man without a 4th land either. And we do see in his hand Adrian a Huntmaster of the Fells to go along with Angel Serenity and Thragtusk, and his draw step is going to be that Loxodon Smiter that he slams into play. That Terminus was a backbreaker.
Are we going to see a Thragtusk? Boom. This is not the position that Jonathan wanted to be in here. The reason he brought in those Smiters, you saw the amount of damage that just 2 Centaur healers was able to put on Reid, putting him practically to the threshold of death. Jonathan's job here, Jonathan Job's job here is essentially to try to end the game before Sphinx's Revelation takes over, and that's what Smiter's here for. But right now, he's looking kind of anemic against a Thragtusk.
Oh boy, and now you see something that we didn't even really see from Reid in the first game, and that's Thragtusk turning sideways, getting in. Reid taking the opportunity to pounce here, and we're going to see another one.
Boom.
Reid on the defensive last game and did a fantastic job of it, but he said this game, oh, you don't have any lands? I'll show you, Mr. Creature Deck, and give the beatdowns.
You know, one of the things about a Thragtusk deck, you can get these aggro draws that are just potent as heck. And Huntmaster of the Fells comes down, putting a ton of creatures on the table. Well, a ton as in 2. A little bit more life gain. Jonathan up to 17 life. We've got 8 power on one side, 10 power on the other side. And Reid Duke's mana slowly inching up. 6 right now, in for 10.
Now, what's interesting here about Reid's attacks, too, is that, you know, he is attacking and putting the pressure on Jonathan, but he can make these attacks because what's the worst thing that happens? What, Thragtusk trades with something? Well, I'll take a 3/3 beast and just keep attacking you. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's shifting gears, and he's doing a fantastic job of it. Now it's Jonathan's turn to kind of play the defensive deck, and his deck doesn't really play defense nearly as well as Reid's deck does.
Yeah, that Huntmaster's the only creature that doesn't block. He's daring Reid to not cast a spell.
We'll see if Reid is willing to oblige, and it doesn't look like he is.
Farseek.
Yeah, there's a spell for you.
Take that, werewolf. It's still daytime.
As we do see a hallowed fountain coming to play here, an old school hallowed fountain.
The good school.
Yeah. Some like it old, some like it new.
And Sigarda, Garruk, Restoration Angel, Angel of Serenity,
and
Cavern of Souls. Oh boy, that was a good pull for Jonathan Job.
So now we believed during the sideboarding games that Cavern of Souls is typically going to name Angel in this matchup. You do see Reid having some mana up, representing some things. Now, it's hard to say if Reid did leave and his Dissipates or boarded them out. Again, because there are some things that are worth countering here that are non-creature spells, and there's also the situation that does come up where Jonathan doesn't draw Cavern of Souls. So is Reid representing a Dissipate here? Is he representing a Restoration Angel? What exactly does he have? Jonathan has a real decision here on what to name with the Cavern of Souls.
Yeah, now because it's a Cavern of Souls, the Garruk Primal Hunter in his hand is not castable yet. Cavern is only colorless for non-creatures. Well, I should say for non-named creatures. And I'm imagining that he's casting Thragtusk on the back of a Cavern of Souls naming beast.
We do see a Thragtusk bring Jonathan up to 20. It's going to help him kind of stabilize this beatdown that he was taking from Reid's Thragtusk. But again, Reid, this is a position that he wants to be in. If he is attacking, if he's actually attacking like he was earlier in this game, he's in a phenomenal situation. But if he has to change gears to start playing defense, I think he's okay doing that as well.
Look at this. He's like, 2 life, Temple Garden.
Yeah. And Sphinx Revelation on the main phase.
Why not? You know, what you gonna do about it?
And you see him casting that on the main phase right now because he doesn't want Huntmaster of the Fells to flip. There's no reason to allow that. And one thing that I do like about this play as well is there's no reason to get cute and, you know, hold up these spells and act like, oh, you'll just do it on your end phase. What's the big deal? You know, get your information now, pass the turn. His shields are theoretically down, but what's the worst thing that can happen right now?
Garruk Primal Hunter. If there's a forest... Oh, it's a Borderland Ranger?
It is.
A little late for that green source that he needs for the Garruk. A Garruk right here would have been, I think, the one card that would have been the worst that could happen.
And it's unfortunate for Jonathan as he does have the worst case scenario to present to Reid, but he just cannot cast it. So we are going to see as he taps his mana, I think we're going to see a Sigarda, and we do.
Now, one of the things that this does, Sigarda, a great creature to put into play, hexproof, flying, does not let you sacrifice your creatures to create spells or effects, essentially. Now, with this table, though, the only creatures that are going to leave any trace of their existence behind are those 2 Thragtusks. So if Reid uses a Supreme Verdict here, if he uses a Terminus here, he's going to be more than happy to go with that kind of trade.
Yeah, leaving 2 beasts on the table, getting that Sigarda out of the way. As we did see Reid draw 5 cards last turn, 1 for this turn, so he does have quite a few options here. Again, setting up a nice game. He is with all of these cards at his disposal, and we saw last game he was able to use those in such a way to be able to win the game. We'll see what he's able to do this time around.
Oh, look at this. You know, interestingly here, actually the Thragtusk coming in is almost an indication that he's not going to cast Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. This is an interesting attack as you see him just keeping the pressure on. I think, you know, maybe he's thinking, maybe Jonathan will want to trade Thragtusk with me, and then I will Wrath, and then the board will be completely clear, which maybe I'm a little bit more comfortable with.
Yeah, that's fair too. Now, it's amusing there when we were talking about Reid the nice guy earlier, Reid passing his beast over to Jonathan. Jonathan had his own supply of beasts, so, you know, it really was Reid being a nice guy there. If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here in the booth with Cedric Phillips, bringing you, I think, one of the things in Standard that some people love and some people hate. It's the onslaught of beasts on all sides, thanks to Thragtusk. Reid Duke with Bant Control versus Jonathan Job with Naya midrange. Personally, I find these decks, like, not the suppressive force that many people complain about. There's been a lot of just variance, I think, in the way that decks are being built right now. Terminus from Reid Duke clears the table completely. 3 mana up. Jonathan Job's turn.
Avacyn Pilgrim, Jonathan Trost up here. That 3 mana up representing think twice. Think, you know, the flashback side of think twice. Cycling Azorius Charm, dissipate and negate. So Reid does have things up here, as we do see a Borderland Ranger. There are still some things for Jonathan to play around, but Reid is going to let that Borderland Ranger resolve.
Forest.
I think it is going to be Forest. Yeah. Can't put that one into play fast enough.
Oh, his kingdom for that Forest a few turns ago. I think that might have been a game-turning moment.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's possible Reid has a Oblivion Ring or a Detention Sphere. Pardon me, there are no Oblivion Rings, so a Detention Sphere in his hand. But barring the Detention Sphere, a Garruk Primal Hunter in play is just such a backbreaker.
As we are going to see an Avacyn's Pilgrim here as well. So Jonathan rebuilding, and we do see a thing twice here from Reid. But Jonathan has a long way to go. Reid sitting here at 31 life, quite a few cards in hand. He does have think twice that he can flashback as well to find more options, but you got to start somewhere.
Yep. Do you remember a few turns ago when Reid Duke was threatening to put Jonathan Job down to 5 life?
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
Yes. 31 to 20. Again, life totals in this matchup just seem like they're always going up, not going down.
This is one of the reasons that the Nephalia Drownyards in Reid Duke's deck are actually so useful, because you get to these stages where life is actually an issue. I've seen so many matches at the Star City Games Open Series where someone is trying to kill another person before time runs out. What do we got there? The Faithmender. Rock's Faithmender, our resident Rhino for Reid Duke.
And we'll bring that one up on the screen for you guys as well, because if you thought he was gaining life before, Reid Duke is about to put that in overdrive, as Rock's Faithmender lets you gain twice the amount of life. And, you know, it's also just a 1/5 that makes attacking incredibly difficult for Jonathan as well. So this is going to make things even more difficult. Reid being at 31 right now, but we could see a steady incline.
I like that. Roxas who live long enough to retire. It's exactly what this deck wants to do. Just live long enough.
Yep. Live just long enough to you know, win the game with the Drown Yard. But now Jonathan has a haymaker of his own in Angel of Serenity, and now this is one of the cards that's going to make things interesting, Adrian.
Do you have it? A counterspell. I believe that we determined that that cavern was on beasts earlier. And so, yes, it was on beasts. This angel is open to a potential counterspell. Reid shuffling his hand around. Has it been agreed to that that angel is in play? Apparently, apparently so. So that means that the Thragtusk and the Loxodon Smiter in the graveyard, as well as the Rock's Faithmender, are all removed from the game by that Angel of Serenity. The Angel essentially butchering that Rock's Faithmender, and then in a certain way reviving in a, we'll say, limbo, the creatures in Jonathan Job's graveyard.
Now we will see what redraws this turn.
Ooh, look at that heavy sigh from Reid Duke. He's trying to figure out a way out of this problem. Killing the Angel is a great start, but then it's going to give back 3 virtual creatures to Jonathan Job. 2 from the Thragtusk and 1 from the Faithmender. Jonathan untaps. Draw. Still playing as though miracles can happen.
Yeah, you know, not positive if he did board out Bonfire of the Damned or not, and it's reasonable that he did leave the men because he does have access to Reid's deck list just like we do. We do know that Reid has Rock's Faithmender. Jonathan knew that that was going to be coming, so Bonfire miracling it to get through that 1/5 is completely reasonable. It's perfectly reasonable for him to leave that card in and be able to get through that brick wall.
And I mean, you know, you might get a sad face if you draw it in your opening hand and have to get to 11 mana to kill a Faithmender. But miracles oh my goodness gracious. There's a die going on that Garruk. That is a Garruk in play.
So now Jonathan Job is putting up one heck of a fight here and now. You know, we saw the early game really favoring Reid as Jonathan was stumbling on mana, and that Terminus in the early turns really damage him. But now we have some of the heavy hitters in play. We have an Angel of Serenity in play that has resolved. We have a Garruk Primal Hunter that is looking to draw 5 cards right now, and that looks to be happening.
There are no Alchemist Refuges in play for Reid Duke to tricksily kill all the creatures in response. So that's 5 cards for 5 mana. Solid deal.
And so now we see Jonathan move one of his 2 Centaur healers to the front. There was also a Loxodon Smiter of Forest in his hand. Can't quite make out what else he drew off of that Garruk, but he is getting himself back into the game now, and Kessig Wolfrun is one of the other cards, which is going to allow him to chase down Reid's life total. Not quite sure what Reid is holding. He does have a handful of cards. He also does have a whole bunch of mana, so if one of those cards is the Sphinx's Revelation, it's going to turn things possibly back in Reid's favor depending on what he draws them. But if you're Jonathan right now with how this game started, Adrian, you're feeling pretty good. You're feeling better.
I mean, once that Angel of Serenity hit, to my mind, that's saying shields are down.
Yeah.
Shields are down. I mean, all of the cards Jonathan wants to see have come into play this game, with the exception of Triumph of Ferocity, and who knows, maybe he drew one. Like, he's got in his hand now a Kessig Wolfrun. He resolved an Angel of Serenity. He resolved and drew 5 cards with a Garruk Primal Hunter. These are the things he needs to have happen.
And now we are going to see a Centaur healer post-combat. Jonathan wondering if that's okay. And it doesn't seem like Reid has very many counterspells in his deck, as we are going to see that big Sphinx's Revelation here for 7 cards and 7 life. So now Reid is really trying to put the foot to the throat here and catch back up with Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, given Jonathan's board position is probably about to be torn asunder, he's still actually looking to be in good shape. Yes, Reid just drew 7 cards, but Jonathan's hand is full as well. There's a Kessig Wolfrun in his hand, and every single creature, it's not going to be a killer, but it's going to be a long way towards being a killer.
Oh.
If Jonathan Job has a Cavern of Souls in his hand, that will mean his future Angel of Serenities will also work, and then you can get into an Angel of Serenity loop, where every dead Angel of Serenity can be resurrected by a new Angel of Serenity.
Yep. And that is something that is difficult for these control decks to be able to deal with, just over and over, to looping and looping and generating your own card advantage. Card advantage that's incredibly difficult for this deck to keep up with, especially when Reid does not any longer have Elixir of Immortality in his deck.
I mean, one of the ways to deal with it is a Detention Sphere. Another is Terminus. But between the main and sideboard, there are only 2 Detention Spheres and 3 Terminus. And you know what? There are other cards you got to deal with besides.
Yeah. As we do see a Farseek here to lead off Reid's turn post-Sphinx Revelation. We'll see what else Reid has here, as he does have a full mid of cards, of course. One of those cards being a Thragtusk. He's moving others to the front. And we're going to see an Augur of Bolas. So some rather unexciting ones to start the turn.
Now, if this was the Swiss rounds, you can see the clock up there. We've passed the 50-minute mark. We would be in extra turns by now, and Reid Duke very likely would be the winner 1-0.
Yeah.
But you know what? We are playing best of 5, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we are. And these games, as we said at the top, are going to go long. It's a good thing these matches are on time for these two, because it's just inevitable for both of these games to go along with how much life gain are in both of these decks. These are just going to be grinded out games, and it's just going to be who can really get their card engines online and draw the better cards.
Now, a thing to realize, too, neither of these players is playing at what I would call an inappropriate pace. These players are playing, they're making some decisions, they're making them in an appropriate amount of time.
Huh?
Another Farseek.
No, both players are being, perfectly reasonable in their speed on their actions, as we do see Reid resolving a Farseek here. These games are just going to take a little while. That's
Absolutely.
all. Nothing that can be done about it.
And way back in the day, you would see some of the, we'll call it Wild West magic, where people would literally shuffle 3 minutes every time they got a chance. None of that happening here. What do we got?
We have a Pithing Needle here from Reid Duke, and we will find out what that is naming in just a moment. It is naming Kessig Wolfrun.
This is a one-of for Reid Duke, and what he's naming is one of the threats from Jonathan Job that really gives him an answer to Sphinx's Revelation. A good call from Reid Duke to bring this in. Literally, looking through the entire set of cards that are available to Jonathan Job, it's the only card that Reid Duke can name in Jonathan Job's list. Nothing else. And Garruk Primal Hunter. One of the 2 cards that can be named. Jonathan Job. 33 life's a lot to chop down.
So we see Reid does have 4 mana available to him. We do know that Reid has 1 Restoration Angel in his main deck along with 1 in the sideboard. So he is doing a nice job of representing that right now. You know, there is also representation of Azorius Charm and a couple other things that Jonathan is going to go through his permutations to try to figure out what to play around and really just how to sculpt his turn, because he does have to start whittling away at Reid's life total again, because the longer things go, the worse things do get, as we see an attack with everyone here from Jonathan Job.
With who?
Everyone.
Everyone!
Yes.
Here they come. And there is a little block on Avacyn's Pilgrim. Block on Borderland Ranger. Those two managed to do no damage. And the Angel and the Centaur hit.
So Reid ends up taking 8 from the attack and moving down to 25. Jonathan moving into a second main phase now, pulling a Centaur Healer to the front, along with a new art Temple Garden. And we are going to see that Centaur Healer bringing Jonathan up to 26. So he is building his board presence a little bit more here, as we will see that Temple Garden as well. And he's going to sandbag that Loxodon Smiter, Bonfire the Damned Temple, Sun Petal Grove, and Sigarda Host of Herons being flipped over to Reid's Nephalia Drownyard.
And Reid knows that's the only Sigarda in Jonathan Job's 75 cards.
Now Reid will take a draw step here, as he does have Terminus in his deck list, so he is careful to draw his card. Interesting to see what he's going to be able to do here. He is still sitting okay, but Jonathan does have a reasonable board presence at this point. Not something that he can ignore for much longer.
I mean, when you're taking a attack for 13, you've got a couple of blockers. Oh, geez. Angel, Restoration Angel, cast at the end of the turn. Jonathan, remember, has Cavern of Souls on Beast. So that is an angel that could theoretically be countered if Reid had the access to it, which he does not. 3 life is gained as a flicker of a Restoration Angel happens.
We see Jonathan draw a card here, drawing another Restoration Angel here to go along with a handful of lands, one of which, unfortunately for him, is a Kessig Wolf Run. But we see this attack again. Everyone being sent in. He's trying to get Reid dead as fast as he can. And we do see Reid beginning to block a little bit more with these Augur of Bolas, considering throwing one away to a Centaur Healer.
Exactly what he does. The declaration is 1 here, 1 there. Take 11.
That's going to move Reid down to 14. So, Adrian, this is a classic case of using his life total as a resource, I assume, because there probably is some sort of removal spell in Reid's hand, be it a Terminus, be it a Supreme Verdict, be it a Detention Sphere, but he's using his life total as a resource in this situation.
And Reid just double-checking the text on Angel of Serenity to make sure he understands. I mean, he knows the card, but every once in a while, just good to make sure that you exactly have the wording.
Hey, it can't hurt, it can only help. As we do see Nephalia Drownyard being activated here for a Triumph of Ferocity, a Borderland Ranger, and a Cavern of Souls being put into Jonathan's graveyard. Reid moving on to his turn.
Restoration Angel, and I believe, let's see, waiting. It keeps on floating to the front of Jonathan Job's hand. Supreme Verdict. 1 damage first, though.
Ha. Gotta get him with that Augur. Show Jonathan who's in charge here. Push him down to 28, as we are going to see the Thragtusk and the Loxodon Smiter being brought back to Jonathan's hand to go along with the other Loxodon Smiter and a Restoration Angel. So Jonathan has reloaded himself. Supreme Verdict has cleared the board, and we do know that Reid picked up a Rock's Faithmender off of that Supreme Verdict. But what else does he have looming in his hand as he is furthering himself and taking control of this game?
Tapping 2 mana there. 3/4. The Faithmender, perhaps. There it is. A pass, which is going to make him, I believe, what's that, 4 mana open still? 6 mana, thank you. That stack of 4, stack of 2 mana. Detention Sphere in Reid's hand. 5 more mana being spent. Thragtusk. 19 to 28. And we know Jonathan Job has a Thragtusk in his own hand. 19 goes to 24. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Faith Mender doubling the life gain.
Oh, that's correct. Yes, Faith Mender is a very powerful card. Double, double, double. We have a beast. He points out that it's a beast cavern. Thrag Tusk of his own. 33 to 24. 5 mana remaining. Smiter. Restoration Angel. Reid untaps. Oh boy.
And now,
Alchemist's Refuge.
now we see the card that really did end up helping Reid win that last game, letting himself get a little bit more crafty in his plays in the Alchemist's Refuge. End step here for Jonathan Job is going to be an attempt at a Restoration Angel, which can be countered because there is no Cavern, but Reid says, I'm okay with that. You can blink that Thrag Tusk, you can have 5 more life, and you can have a Beast token. But now, if you're Jonathan, you really have to reconsider things again, because now things can be coming at instant speed of all of the cards in Reid's deck. Those Wraths, those Terminus, even a Detention Sphere. And then there's the instance that we already know about, like Azorius Charm, that could happen now.
Restoration Angel, Kessig Wolfrun. Sitting in the hand. One of the things about Alchemist Refuge, as you were saying, all those cards sitting in the hand you have access to. Having to try to work out what the proper plays are when your opponent can do anything at an instant speed, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, you can lose yourself inside your own brain, running around in circles, trying to figure it all out. Sometimes the answer can just be, well, I'll just attack and hope it all works.
Yeah, as we are going to see a Loxodon Smiter here post-combat. Jonathan finally playing that Kessig Wolfrun in his hand. A little bit disappointed there, as he does see the Pithing Needle taking care of that. It would be a very useful tool given this game state, but it is not going to do what it's intended to do, as we see Jonathan leaving the last 2 cards in his hand in another Loxodon Smiter and a Restoration Angel.
I wonder if Jonathan Job in Game 3 is going to move Oblivion Ring 1 or 2 copies into his main deck just to fight the Needle.
I think it's something that he has to seriously consider here. Not only is it going to do a nice job of fighting Pithing Needle, but Rock's Faith Mender, you know, it won't allow Jonathan to attack because it's there. As we see another Thrag Tusk here through Alchemist's Refuge, gaining Reid another 10 life because of the aforementioned Faith Mender. It's something that he may need to get out of the way with Oblivion Ring.
31 to 38 now. Is this a game of Commander that's underway, or what's going on?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Reid was ever dealing Jonathan those points of damage with Thrag Tusk around turn 5 and turn 6, now does it?
Now, if you are looking at this board, just joining us, this is Game 2 in a game that was kind of back and forth. Jonathan Job started out early with an Avacyn's Pilgrim, turn 2 Loxodon Smiter, but what was this? It's a miracle. Turn 2 Terminus from Reid Duke, and then a back and forth this whole game till we get to this game state with 31 to 38, Reid Duke to Jonathan Job. Wow. Thrag, thrag, thrag.
Both players have drawn a boatload of cards this game. Reid has done it through Sphinx's Revelation. Jonathan has done it through Garruk Primal Hunter and thinning his deck via Borderland Rangers. So both players have seen a lot of cards this game. The difference here is that Reid is able to find his singletons a little bit better than Jonathan just because of Think Twice, just because of cycling Azorius Charm, and heavy hitters in Sphinx's Revelation. So it is reasonable for him to board in that singleton copy of Pithing Needle, which is doing one heck of a lot of damage right now. Kessig Wolfrun on this attack, for example, would be phenomenal.
Absolutely. Now we've got potential word coming soon from the floor about what's happening in the other match off camera. Ben Weinberg with Naya Humans versus Matt Nass with Blue White Geist. And as soon as we know, we'll let you know how that match is going.
As we do see Reid make some blocks here. Does pass priority back to Jonathan. We'll have some trades, some creatures moving in and out, as we're going to see some beast tokens enter the battlefield now as well. Some amount of damage dealt to Reid. We'll have confirmation and update on life totals for you guys in just a moment. But some things were cleared out of the way, but again, you do see Reid just using his life total and his creatures as a resource as a Loxodon Smiter does come down post-combat.
You always see when I feel a Thrag Tusk die, I always want to say, rise from the grave. Matt Nass picks up the 3rd game to bring it 2-1. Ben Weinberg versus 1 for Matt Nass. They're now in Game 4. Ben Weinberg once again with Naya Humans, 2 games. Matt Nass with Blue White Geist with 1 game. This game that we're in this semifinals match here at the Star City Games Open Series featuring the Invitational, Reid Duke up 1-0 in this long slog of a game 2. You were talking about control decks finishing. You can see Reid Duke here. He's putting up a lot of control elements, but you know what? Once he actually establishes control fully, 43 life, probably a ton of deck left for Jonathan Job. Even if he manages to push control over Jonathan, it's going to be a small game left for him to finish off the match.
Yeah.
Finish off that game.
We do see Reid activating the Alchemist Refuge right now, and it looks like we're going to see a Supreme Verdict, which is going to clear everything off the board here for Reid. You guys can really see in both the last game and this one, Alchemist Refuge does something that no other card can do in Standard.
Yeah.
You know, it changes the complexity of the game completely. It gives Reid so much benefit of what he can do. As we do see a Hunt Master of the Fells here now from Jonathan. Jonathan going to be gaining 2 more life and getting another Wolf token, but again, doesn't have a huge impact on the board with Reid at 24 life, a boatload of cards in his hand, and he's starting to attack Jonathan's deck as we see a Avacyn's Pilgrim, an Oblivion Ring, and an Angel of Serenity turned over. So he actually did, Adrian, bring in the Oblivion Ring that you spoke of.
Good for him.
Yeah, he's good. He needs it. He needs it.
Now, I bet you that right now, Jonathan Job was wishing he could get a Felidar Sovereign into play. 45 life would be a win if only that Zendikar Rare was around.
Yeah, it's too bad that it's not right now, because that would be a game ender, as we do see Jonathan draw a card right now. He's going to serve in for 4. He's going to knock Reid back down to 20, and it's like we've just started all over again.
Garruk Primal Hunter.
Not a bad draw.
Best darn Thragtusk in a Thragtusk fight. It's probably going to start creating beasts. Turning that into 2 cards would feel like a waste. Here's the first beast. Jonathan is saying, I am not done yet. Don't count me out.
As we do see Reid start with the activation there of Nephalia Drownyard, Selesnya Charm, Thragtusk, and Triumph of Ferocity. The cards turned over into Jonathan's graveyard. We also do see a Detention Sphere here for Reid, and it looks like we're going to be going back for more with that Alchemist's Refuge. We're going to see a Supreme Verdict clean up some things. And as you said, it's not just one card that gets flashed, it's all spells get flashed when Alchemist Refuge is activated. So you see a Supreme Verdict clear out all the creatures, Detention Sphere clear out the Planeswalkers, and Jonathan is cardless, and he's going to need a good one.
The first time I activated an Alchemist Refuge and cast the second spell, my opponent called a judge, and they're like, nope, all of the spells. Oh, really?
Yeah, every single one. And now we do see an Avacyn's Pilgrim. Now Reid, who we were referring to at Grand Prix San Antonio as the king of the Drown Yard, is starting to really, really shift gears now and putting Jonathan away. As we see a Selesnya Charm drawn for Jonathan's turn. Avacyn's Pilgrim dinking away, putting Reid down to 19. But Reid coming back, milling Sunpetal Grove, Rootbound Crag, and a Loxodon Smiter.
I like this, that Reid, he has a... I think I saw a Augur of Bolas in his hand, but he didn't cast it because he doesn't really need anything yet. Why search for something when you don't know what you're going to need?
Well, he is sitting pretty right now. No reason to make a move. Jonathan, 45 life. I mean, that's great and everything, and Reid sitting at 19, but Jonathan not putting any pressure on Reid. You know, chunks of 3 right now are not going to get it done when Reid's chunks of 3 are better than Jonathan's, and Jonathan comes to the same conclusion and scoops it up as we are going to move along to Game 3.
Okay, so we brought up Oblivion Ring from Jonathan Job. This is one of the great things about Magic when you get to the level that these 2 players are playing it at. So, what is Oblivion Ring good against for Reid Duke? Not very many cards. I mean, it's useful, of course, as you said, to get rid of, let's say, a Rock's Faithmender, but you can expect that Reid Duke is going to do a lot of sweeping of the table with his own cards, because he's going to have to. But he foresaw that Pithing Needle could be a reality, and Pithing Needle came out, was a total, just devastating card against the Kessig Wolf run. Jonathan Job knew that Reid Duke would know to do that, and so he put in those Oblivion Rings.
Yeah, and you know, it does make sense to bring those in as Reid Duke is taking a quick bathroom break here. Jonathan going to reconsider how he does want to sideboard. With Oblivion Ring being in right now, I don't think there's any more tricks that Jonathan Job can pull out of his bag. He did have a great start in Game 2, but Reid was able to break that up with one of the 4 Terminus he has in his deck after sideboard. So again, for Jonathan Job to be able to pull out one of these games and start to gain some traction in this matchup, he is going to need one of those fast starts again, leading with Avacyn's Pilgrim, following up with Loxodon Smiter.
I mean, if he can get that fast start you're talking about, he can make it so that this late game power that Reid Duke's deck can produce won't even get to be brought into the game. I mean, that's the hope. And unfortunately for Jonathan, you're talking about a deck with access to 3 Supreme Verdicts in the main deck, no more on the board, 1 Terminus in the main deck, 2 more on the board. That is 6 aggressively powered sweep spells. Yeah. So getting that draw, it could be quite hard.
Yeah, it really can be. It really can be. Now, I don't want to pronounce anything over here, but Jonathan definitely has an uphill climb. He is down 2-0 in what I think he would consider to be his worst matchup in the top 8. Talking with him before the top 8 began, he was very happy with his quarterfinal pairing. And of course, Leon Kornacki was playing a Black-Green Zombies deck. Jonathan's deck naturally plays on those type of aggressive decks, especially one that does not have any range. But this matchup here, you guys can see the power of Reid Duke's deck, just more powerful in his strategy, better than Jonathan's, given the cards that both players are playing.
Now, one of the things that Jonathan may have done on his undefeated run through here, 9 matches thus far of Standard that Jonathan Job has taken down. 8-0 in the Swiss.
Yep.
He won his last round to make him 9-0. Perhaps his earlier matchups, I don't know if he faced any Bant control lists. This could be one of those matchups where the play skill of your opponent can make it so that they just crumble, even if they've got the advantage in the matchup. Let's pretend it wasn't Reid Duke there.
Sure.
Let's pretend it was some guy that's pretty good, but not Reid Duke good.
Sure.
Jonathan Job maybe could pull a whole ton of percentage points into the match win in his favor, because maybe they wouldn't realize Pithing Needle for that Kessig Wolf run was critical.
Sure.
And I would be unsurprised if a part of the path here was him beating these Bant control decks, largely on the back of them not having the skills to know how to fight this fight, and him knowing what to do.
Yeah, and that's completely reasonable. But one thing that Jonathan does have to expect and have to know walking into this matchup is that Reid is going to play very, very good Magic.
Yeah.
Of course, no perfect Magic is ever played, but he's going to play as darn close it as you can with this deck. Again, 2 Grand Prix top 8s, back-to-back Grand Prix top 8s with this deck.
Yeah.
Reid knows this deck, and you can just tell with the way he plays and moves around his cards.
Absolutely.
He knows this deck like the back of his hand. He
Yeah.
knows exactly what he's looking to accomplish in all stages of the game, and those percentage points that you talk about that Jonathan may have been able to pick up against other Bant players, you're going to be hard-pressed to be able to pick up those points here.
I mean, I would be willing to bet that if you were to ask Reid Duke, grab him and say, hey, Reid Duke, tell me the 75 cards in your list, he'd be able to run through it. And if you were to say, well, what about last week? He'd be able to tell you exactly what cards were switched.
Yep.
And you know what? Once you have that kind of knowledge of your deck, that is the kind of thing where when you cast a Farseek, maybe you'll lose a % or 2 for getting the wrong land at the wrong time.
Sure.
And Reid Duke just won't do that.
No, those small mistakes that really end up mattering, those are mistakes that he is not going to make.
Yeah.
And you have to, there's something about that as an opponent of Reid Duke. It's kind of, an overwhelming feeling of just like, there are times when you're playing a match of Magic, and that you've played competitive Magic, where, you can maybe lead your opponent in a mistake, or, maybe they won't use their resources correctly, and you can assume that that's going to happen just because you don't believe that your opponent is better than you. But when you have an opponent who is as good as Reid Duke is, it's difficult to try to lead them into those mistakes. You've seen Jonathan sandbagging threats a little bit here and trying to pace the game in such a way. And Reid has been in these situations before where I'm sure many opponents have tried that, and he knows how to get himself out of those tough jams. He's played against Angel Serenity before. He's played against Kessig Wolf Run before. Lord knows he's had to over Grand Prix, which are 16, 17 rounds nowadays. So he's been in these situations before, and he knows what to do when he's in them.
And, the other thing, Reid Duke, he kind of cut his teeth on the Magic Online circuit and was a huge Magic Online player. What do you want to bet that Reid Duke still spends a lot of time on Magic Online? That's a place where you can get thousands of hands of Magic in, and I'm willing to bet that Reid Duke, not only for the love of the game, but just to keep his skills honed when he's, not having anyone to play with in person, he's still probably grinding this deck all the time on Magic Online. Now, Jonathan Job, as you said, let's not count him out. He is undefeated in Standard for the weekend.
Yeah, and,
so,
and again, he is undefeated for a reason. He did go 9-0 in Standard, 8-0 in the Swish portion, beat Leon Granacki in the top 8 in the quarterfinal matchup, so he is 9-0 in Standard. This is the deck he did want to play this weekend. He felt it was the best deck for the weekend, and who am I to argue? He's 9-0, and he is got his back up against the wall because, Adrian, I think walking into this tournament, if we were to kind of, rewind a little bit and go back to Friday morning about what decks we thought we were going to see here, and over the course of the weekend, as Brendan Hickey, our coverage runner, was bringing us information, Band Control is a deck that did not see a lot of play this weekend.
This is true. And the reason that it wasn't seeing a lot of play is that while it had come to kind of a crest not so long ago, maybe a few weeks, it was at the time of kind of the top of the metagame. Metagames get resisted. People say, you're the one I need to beat. And they put the target on it and start shooting their guns. And you know what? They might miss with that first shot, but they keep getting better. And Reid Duke, he's somebody that he just stuck to it. He knew that the guns were being trained on him a few weeks ago, stuck with it. And then when the target started moving elsewhere, he's still with it. And you know what? Not as many people are aggressively trying to beat Band Control anymore.
Yeah, I think that black-red zombies, black-red aggressive decks, and even your red-black takes on the flip side, those are the decks that people are gunning for right now.
Yeah.
People also gunning for, your blue-white-red mid-range deck as well. And that's why we've seen these Naya-based mid-range decks crop up, and we have seen decks like Human Reanimator decks pop up to beat these aggressive decks.
Yep.
And when that's the case, especially in the case of Naya mid-range, when that deck is here to thrive on those aggressive decks, that's where Band Control comes in and says, hey, nice mid-range deck, man.
Right.
I'm in the house, and I've got Sphinx Revelation, and you don't.
Now, I think that you're exactly correct, that the cards that were being targeted this weekend, the ones I heard talked about, Falcon Wrath Aristocrat was probably enemy number 1. Enemy number 2 was, as you said, that USA, that red, white, blue either flash or red, white, blue mid-range, depending on the particulars of the build. And those were the ones I heard the most talk about, with the final talking about the Human Reanimator deck that just made a splash. Those were the things most people that I heard talking were saying that they wanted to be able to beat.
Yeah. As we do see both players here looking over their opening hands. Jonathan giving his opening hand a long look over here, as he cannot afford to take a misstep or have a poor hand. He cannot lose another game here. You see Reid looking over there, feeling rather confident right now about where he's at in this match, up 2 games in a very good matchup for his Band Control deck. And we do see Jonathan going down to 6 cards, and we are going to see Reid go down to 6 as well.
One of the cards that Jonathan has not yet seen to cast this match so far, Triumph of Ferocity.
Yes.
Now, this card, all by itself, is the kind of card that can make him keep up card for card the entire way with Reid Duke casting Sphinx's Revelations. So, while that card is not a beatdown card in any sense of the word, what it is it's fuel in the tank. You're never going to run out of gas if you've got Triumph working.
And I think that card, even though Jonathan only has 2 copies in his sideboard, I think it's very important for him to be able to find one of those this game. He is on the play, potential for a turn 1 Avacyn's Pilgrim, turn 2 Triumph Ferocity. I think that some sort of start like that is going to be really important for him. He needs to get a card drawing engine online, be it Triumph Ferocity or be it Garrick Primal Hunter, and try to keep up with Reid, which of course is going to be difficult to do because he doesn't have the amount of card drawing and card manipulation that Reid has, but he needs to find some of his own.
Card drawing and library manipulation are not often thought of as the Naya color.
Yeah, not at all.
I mean,
not at all.
One thing I do like, if we're going to talk kind of quote-unquote Naya colors and card drawing and library manipulation, think a little bit to Legacy, Sylvan Library.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones that I love. I love seeing that card around. And you know what? I don't know that there's anything close to that in Standard other than Triumph of Ferocity. Closest thing you can get.
I bet Jonathan would take one of those if we gave him to him.
Oh
right
my
now.
God.
I don't think he'd mind at all as he starts with an Avacyn's Pilgrim. Reid kicks it back with a Hallowed Fountain. So now this is kind of a crucial turn. Let's see if he does have, first of all, second land, but a Triumph of Ferocity or a Lockdown Smiter. And we're going to see a Centaur Healer.
Centaur Healer, second string fighter in this fight. Still does some work.
And you can see Jonathan's hand right now. He does have that Angel of Serenity. He does have a Hunt Match of the Fells and an Oblivion Ring. So his hand not great, as we are going to see a Farseek here from Reid to fix his mana and accelerate him. A 4th land right now, and of course it does need to be one that produces red mana. Pretty crucial, I think, Adrian.
Now, what we don't see from Reid Duke on turn 2, that Terminus that just tore Jonathan up in the second game.
And Jonathan's draw step is a Garruk Primal Hunter, so he's not even going to have the 4th land. And he's going to have to get in here with the Pilgrim and the Healer and put Reid down to 16.
Now, in this moment, a windmill slam of Supreme Verdict will happen if Reid can cast it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Knocking out the clock, knocking out mana on a player that's already choked down a little bit on their mana.
Yep. And we do see in Reid's hand there is at least one Overgrown Tomb. Again, not sure if there is a Supreme Verdict, Terminus, what have you. Even a card right now, as we see Overgrown Tomb come into play untapped, dealing Reid 2, putting him to 14. Even a card like Azorius Charm, is a pretty good one.
It's that loss of the draw phase. I mean, there are people that are like, oh, why would you ever want to cast Memory Lapse? Because I don't want you to draw anything new.
Yeah, that's all.
The same thing with Azorius Charm. I mean, I have been told numerous times, oh, what's so great about the red deck, the haste creatures don't care about Azorius Charm. Well, I do when I want to draw land.
Yeah. And now Reid's turn is Jonathan does not attack this turn. I love what Reid did on his turn. He played an Overgrown Tomb untapped and he said go. And the reason that I love that, Adrian, is because he is representing so many things there. But one of the things that he's representing is a Restoration Angel. And that's something that Jonathan can't afford to attack into.
Yep.
Can't afford to just have his Avacyn's Pilgrim or his Centaur Healer be eaten. But on the same in the same turn, it's really tough for Jonathan because if he's not attacking, what is he doing?
Jonathan here cast an Avacyn's Pilgrim, really saying, hey, you got that Terminus, you got that Supreme Verdict, you got something? And if he does, it's, oh, there it is. Now, Jonathan, I think, had to do that. He had to get the mana going, but how devastating. There's nothing he's going to be able to play this turn. Pass. Oh, boy. Reid Duke in firm control so far. The game isn't over yet, but it looks pretty bad for Jonathan.
And the only thing Reid is missing right now is he's missed his land drop last turn. And we do see a Think Twice here from him. So the only issues he's having is a bit of a land trouble, but I think he did just draw a Hallowed Fountain for the turn. It was the Mighty Alchemist Refuge and now Farseek. So you can just ignore my previous statement, as he looks like he has his mana base online now.
Well, that main phase casting of Think Twice did imply that he was looking for a land to drop.
Yeah.
So Overgrown Tomb fetched out. One of the 2 black sources of mana in his deck, handily able to be fetched by the Farseek because it is a swamp. Huntmaster of the Fells, perhaps? There it is. Jonathan Job saying that he is not yet done.
Yeah, he's going to try to put up a fight here. We do know that he has a Garruk Primal Hunter in his hand. Only 2 sources of green mana right now. Third one would be key next turn. But he is actually going to be able to play some magic now that he can present some threats on the table. There's also a Restoration Angel hanging out in his hand as well. So it is not over. Things are certainly in Reid Duke's favor right now, but Jonathan looking to turn things back his way.
If you are just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here in the booth with Cedric Phillips, bringing you the coverage here of the StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational. Reid Duke up 2-0 versus Jonathan Job. This is a deeply advantaged matchup for Reid Duke. A main phase flashback on the Think Twice finds him another land, he passes the turn. This keeps the Huntmaster of the Fells from becoming a werewolf, Ravager of the Fells. Jonathan Job comes in for 4.
Jonathan, we do know, has that Restoration Angel there in his hand. Reid, again, sorting through his options of what he wants to do this turn. What do I want to do to take care of this? Do I even mind taking 4 damage and moving down to 10? That is the question.
I don't remember in the previous game if we saw a Restoration Angel from Reid Duke. But is Restoration Angel a card Reid Duke would keep in this matchup? It seems like it has applications, but I'm not sure if it fits in this matchup.
It's interesting. It's hard to say if he would leave the one in his main deck in or board in the second one, but again, the threat of having one of those or access to two of those makes things difficult for Jonathan, as we are going to see a Restoration Angel right now, and actually Reid just ends up taking the damage.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's something that Jonathan has to play around, and that's one of the reasons that I like Reid's deck list for this tournament. These band control decks, the number of Restoration Angels they have do vary, but one keeps your opponent honest.
Yeah, and the other thing that Angel did, it kept it daytime.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Now, the daytime, nighttime, if you're not sure, in Innistrad, the whole idea is if nothing happened, then you're going to go to the nighttime. Well, Reid Duke casting that spell during Jonathan Job's turn meant that a spell was cast. So Huntmaster of the Fells does not flip, because nighttime's the time when nothing happens.
Yeah. And now it looks like Huntmaster of the Fells will flip now. It's going to deal 2 to the Angel and 2 to Reid, so it's going to push him down to 8. Reid not casting a spell, so we'll see what Jonathan's able to draw here, and he draws a forest.
Ooh, that was a critical forest.
Now that is a good draw for Jonathan.
Reid Duke's life, 8. 6 power on the table for Jonathan. Now there is 8 mana open for Reid Duke. That could be a Sphinx's Revelation for 5 if he cast one this turn. Gonna have to see what Jonathan Job puts down on the table. Besides that Garruk, you can see a Thragtusk sitting around. Either of those cards would be a very potent threat. We don't know if Jonathan is fearing counter magic, contemplating all of the possibilities from Reid Duke. Remember, Alchemist Refuge in play. Alchemist Refuge is no joke.
No, the threat. This card has been one of the cards that has just been unbelievable this entire matchup, and the threat of that, as you see it, within those 8 lands for Reid, is very scary. As we are going to see Huntmaster of the Fells, his flipped side, come on in, the Ravager, and we see the Wolf token hanging back. Jonathan does have an Oblivion Ring in his hand as well, so he's really just considering, do I want to Oblivion Ring that Restoration Angel and get in? A lot of different lines of play here for Jonathan, but he goes with just attack with my 4/4 Trampler.
Reid Duke blocks. One of the things that's really interesting about the Alchemist Refuge, oh, and we see an Azorius Charm. One of the things that's really interesting about the Alchemist Refuge is this card was brought into the deck in many ways as a part of a discussion of how do you handle Craterhoof Behemoth.
Yeah.
And like many players, that Alchemist Refuge was not in there until the conversation started about the Craterhoof deck. And Hoof, there it is. Well, that Alchemist Refuge is still in the deck. And where is Hoof, there it is? I haven't seen it in a while. It just proved itself.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
People looked for a solution, found a solution, and didn't realize until they had played with it just how good that the Alchemist Refuge is. That Azorius Charm that Reid Duke just cast on Huntmaster of the Fells, is it going to be stymied by this Restoration Angel? We'll find out in a moment. We are going on the other match. Matt Nass has picked up Game 4 to make it 2-2 versus Ben Weinberg. They are going to Game 5. That is Humans, Naya Humans versus Blue-White Flash.
And now we do see Jonathan Job's Restoration Angel does resolve. As we see him play a Forest post-combat, it does flip that Ravager of the Fells into a Huntmaster of the Fells. We'll see 2 life gain, a Wolf token put into play, and most importantly, a solid board presence here for Jonathan.
8 mana for Reid Duke. He arranges his mana as there's the 9th mana. Terminus. Out of here, to the bottom.
Terminus clearing everything up here, and Reid Duke again representing that 3 mana. Now, we haven't seen Dissipate in any of these games yet, I believe, Adrian, and I know we haven't seen one in the sideboarded game, so, he has been representing that quite a bit. That 3 mana is also representative of the cycling of Azorius Charm, the flashback of Think Twice, as Jonathan's going to slam down a Thragtusk, and it will resolve, pushing himself up to 30. So we'll see exactly what Reid's going to do with it. And actual nothing, so that's a bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, I like the cast of the Thragtusk there instead of the Garruk, because regardless of the question of Disappear or not, Reid Duke is at 8.
Yes. It's time. He's got to get him dead, and we've seen this. Jonathan has got to get him dead. Jonathan draws a Plains for his turn. Thragtusk threatening, and it's coming across into the red zone. It's going to knock Reid Duke down to 3. The question now is what does Reid Duke have in his hand? Yeah.
And Jonathan cannot just sit back here and say go, lest Reid Duke threaten him with the Sphinx's revelation.
Yeah, he's got to add to his board here. Has to. And I personally think the best way to add to his board here is just another Thragtusk, but, you know, I can see a very good argument to be made for playing that Garruk Primal Hunter as well.
Let's see what he goes with.
And he is going to go with the Planeswalker.
He's saying to Reid Duke, do you have a Dissipate? Did you board in a negate? What is your plan here, Reid? One of the other awesome things about the Alchemist Refuge, Thragtusk often is a problem because when you answer it, you've tapped down so much that you can't stop the beast that comes out. But if you end of turn answer it and then untap and answer the beast, it can save you a kind of virtual mana by making you save up your mana on their turn and then have mana available on your own turn.
Yep. As we do see Reid think here just a little bit about what he wants to do about Garruk. And Garruk is going to resolve. A 3/3 beast is going to come into play. And now Reid was facing down a lethal attack before, but it's even worse for him now. So let's see what Reid can do to get himself out of this situation.
Now, remember, Reid Duke here on Death's Door, he gains 6 life, goes back up to 9, but he is not out of the woods yet. That Garruk needs to be answered and answered quickly. He's gotten a whole bunch of fuel to try to do so, but that does not mean he's drawn it. It's just the potential. Let's see what he has for this next turn. This will be a critical turn for Reid Duke.
Reid draws his card.
I see a Supreme Verdict in Reid Duke's hand.
There's also a Glacial Fortress there as well. And he is going to start doing what he always does, move around that mana, make sure that he uses it all efficiently and correctly on what is one of the more crucial turns of the game.
I wish I could do this on Magic Online.
Yeah, you and me both. But those are some of the benefits to playing real-life Magic. Just having those cards in your hand, being able to move them around just how you'd like to. And we do see a Detention Sphere here from Reid.
Boom. Taking out the ever-dangerous Garruk. Another thing I'd like to do on Magic Online, tap all of my lands at once.
Yeah.
I see a lot of land in Reid Duke's hand. To the discard phase.
He's going to discard one of those lands that you did mention, discarding an island.
Remember, the Alchemist Refuge means he can cast anything as though it were an instant. It only costs him a little bit of mana to activate it. He has access to 8 mana total.
Cavern of Souls, the draw step there for Jonathan, an important one, of course. He does have an Angel of Serenity in his hand, so that is the 7th land, but he is going to start by moving to combat and an attack here on Reid.
We're going to find out what that Cavern of Souls is named with our spotter.
We are going to see Alchemist Refuge power out a Supreme Verdict.
Is it in his hand? Oh, wait. Is it? I don't see the Cavern in play.
The Cavern is in
just in his hand. Is it in his hand? There we go. Pardon me. Oblivion Ring for the Detention Sphere. Does that work? Looks so. Look at how tapped out Reid Duke is.
And Reid thinking, that's kind of a pain for me. I really, really wanted that Garruk to not be there, as we see him looking through his hand, and we do see a Pithing Needle.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I was about to say there's nothing Reid Duke can do, but was I ever wrong? That 1 mana Pithing Needle. Remember, Alchemist Refuge turns all spells into instants. That was amazing.
That's a fantastic play by Reid. What Reid does there is he allows Jonathan to cast the Oblivion Ring. He allows the Oblivion Ring's effect to target the Detention Sphere. Jonathan feeling pretty good as he's able to get back the Garruk. And Reid says, in response to letting Oblivion Ring's ability resolve, I'll play a Pithing Needle. Yep. I will name Garruk Primal Hunter, and you'll get no use out of it. Nice Planeswalker. As we see an attack here for 3.
That Cavern of Souls in play is naming Angel. Good for Jonathan, not so good for Reid Duke here. But Reid Duke tapping some mana. What are we going to see happen? 7 mana.
We're going to see an instant speed Rock's Faithmender jump in the way. Bouncing off, but more importantly, gaining Reid 2 life, moving him up to 11 now.
We see another Cavern of Souls in Jonathan Job's hand.
And what we see now is 7 mana being tapped and an Angel of Serenity, which cannot be countered, but now it's up to Jonathan to make sure that he uses these effects correctly. And he is going to return a Thragtusk and a Centaur Healer from his graveyard and get rid of that annoying Rock's Faithmender so he can keep attacking with that Beast token.
It's possible Reid here is trying to think if there's anything he wants to do in response to the targeting. I believe he might cast a Supreme Verdict in response to this targeting, taking care of all of these creatures forever.
Yep.
Remember, these triggers go on the stack. If you kill or bounce or otherwise remove that Angel of Serenity in response to the comes into play trigger, those are targeted abilities. That will mean that the leaves play trigger will happen first.
And that's exactly what you're going to see here,
Oh
Adrian.
my goodness.
Supreme Verdict from Reid, taking care of Angel of Serenity and all of its hijinks. Beast token also going to leave play as well, and those cards will be placed into a different zone here, but most importantly, they are not going to be in play. We'll clean that Beast token up in just a moment, as Supreme Verdict does get rid of that too, Jonathan, unfortunately. But Reid...
Oh, what a master.
Using Alchemist Refuge in ways that we didn't think would be possible when we first saw this card.
When you can do anything as an instant, you know, crazy stuff can happen.
As now we do see Jonathan draw a card here, plays a Cavern of Souls, likely naming Beast here, and he is going to play his Thragtusk that he's been holding for a little while. Last card in Jonathan's hand is a Rootbound Crag, and I'm sure he's hoping, Reid, please don't have Sphinx's Revelation. I'm begging you.
Oh, and Reid is counting the library.
Sphinx's Revelation, please.
Oh. Counting the library, never a good feeling for for the opponent watching it anyway.
And now you see Reid counting his mana, moving cards around. I think we're going to see a Sphinx's Revelation. And this Revelation here is for 10. Reid moving to 21, drawing 10 cards, and putting his stamp on this match here. Jonathan just having a Thragtusk left. It's not over yet, folks, but it sure does feel like it.
Good gravy. Oh, Jonathan can't feel good about this moment in the game.
Reid's draw step, his 11th card now is an Augur of Bolas. And now Reid has all these options in his hand, so he's going to take a moment just to sift through his hand, figure out what he's going to be discarding, figure out what he wants to do, deal with this Thragtusk, and further this game along.
Yep. Now, the Alchemist Refuge, talking about crazy stuff that happens at instance. We've been seeing them here today. That Pithing Needle coming into play after Oblivion Ring targets a Detention Sphere to free a Garruk Primal Hunter. That Supreme Verdict taking out an Angel of Serenity while its comes into play trigger was on the stack. You know, if you've been playing any cubes out there that are creative, I've seen the Alchemist Refuge be used in conjunction with Balance.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. As we do see Augur of Bolas is here resolving, cards moving in and around, upside down. Reid, just again, getting things set up. He's got a ton of mana. He's got a ton of cards in his hand. It's up to him to just balance his resources correctly. And then Jonathan's draw steps are going to have to net him something very, very good for him to get back into this game. As we are going to see, I believe, a Thragtusk here as well, pushing Reid up to 26.
And then that huge grip of hands is going to shrink down to 7, discarding land. Jonathan here, 1 card in hand. Draws another Garruk.
Yeah. In most cases, that would be a great draw right now. He would be extremely pleased. But you can see a bit of a defeated look in his face of just, he thought he was going to get back in it, and he did have the tools, but Reid's one-ofs in this match and have just been unbelievable, Adrian. Pithing Needle has looked great, and again, Alchemist Refuge, it honestly might be the MVP of this match.
It has been the workhorse. Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, creating incredible moments, forcing plays from Jonathan that were not optimal, turning good plays from Jonathan into just these almost nightmarish horror movies.
Oh.
I mean, if I were Jonathan, I know that I'd be looking back to this match and wondering, you know, could it have gone any worse with that pairing? Looking at all the other people that were in this top 8, you know, who else could he have played? This is the nightmare right here. It looks to me like the undefeated run of Jonathan Job in Standard is about to come to a crashing halt.
As you see, he draws an Avacyn's Pilgrim for the turn and plays a Sun Petal Grove. Avacyn's Pilgrim coming into play, not really going to have much of an effect on the board, and he's not even going to play it here. As you see, Reid turning over 3 more cards. Bonfire the Dam, Tribe from Ferocity, and Centaur Healer from Nephalia Drownyard. And he's actually got 2 active right now.
Yep.
So Reid really, really going to work here. Drawing, saying go, putting Temple Guard into play.
Control players at home, take note. Reid has pre-arranged his lands for these activations,
Yep.
and in so doing is saving precious time. They're not in timed rounds right now, but you know what? Getting in the habit of playing like this can mean that you don't time out when you're trying to win in the real world.
And you can really see here, you can just see with the way that he plays his deck, the motions. He's very, very mechanical, Reid, as the way that he plays his cards. You can tell that he's been doing this for a very, very long time with this deck. He knows, again, exactly what he's trying to do. And I think the big thing that you just brought up is how he does set his things aside with the drawn yards to just say, all right, here's a 3, here's a 3. And there's no real shuffling around of lands and you know, any wasted motion. He has everything the way that he wants it.
Oblivion Ring, the number 2 Oblivion Ring from Jonathan Job. That's the only one left to get rid of the Pithing, or the Pithing Needle, and that was Jonathan Job's hope. Done, dashed, over. Undefeated in matches in Standard coming into this round, and he is swept out 3-0 in games by Reid Duke. Wow.
A decisive victory.
Absolutely.
A very decisive victory here by Reid Duke with his band control deck. And Adrian, we talk about how Jonathan Job was 9-0 in Standard moving into that round. Someone else that is undefeated right now is Reid Duke in this top 8. He has won both of his matches 3-0, and he is moving on to the finals, looking to claim his first Star City Games Invitational crown here in Los Angeles.